Howdy, folks, and welcome to the show. I'm Connor Jones, and as you may have guessed, I am your host, and this is Untold Tales from This Side of Nowhere. That podcast about the tiny town in the middle of nowhere, Poverty Flats. That's right. This is an episode that I think you will quite enjoy, and it deals with a topic that's near and dear to my heart and under all of our feet, and occasionally tracked into our kitchens. So, before we get started, though, here is a message from our sponsors. This week, our sponsor is Basin Pharmacy in Basin, Wyoming. Basin Pharmacy is your hometown pharmacy, as well as your source for over-the-counter medicine, vitamins, and supplements. They also carry office supplies, Russell Stover's chocolates, and greeting cards. The friendly folks at Basin Pharmacy are happy to help with any of your medicinal needs, whether you have a prescription to fill or a question about your meds. You can stop in Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. We are also sponsored by the Wyoming Welcome Program. The Wyoming Welcome Program offers two services to local businesses: Table Talk and the Wyoming Welcome Baskets. Wyoming Welcome Baskets are filled with promotional items for local businesses and distributed to new move-ins to the Bighorn Basin. Table Talk brochures include jokes, facts about the state of Wyoming, the month's holidays, and advertisements from our local businesses. These brochures are placed on restaurant tables in Cody and Powell for diners to peruse. So if you'd like to get your business name out there, please contact the folks at the Wyoming Welcome Program by shooting an email to Haley J, that's HALEYJ, at wyomingwelcome.com. Do you have a noxious weed problem? The team at 307 Pest Management can help. We offer residential and commercial noxious weed management that is safe and affordable. Whether you have a parking lot, a yard, or some production land that needs treated for noxious weeds, 307 Pest Management is ready to help get your weeds under control. Give them a call today for a free quote at 307-250-0614 or send an email to 307pestmanagement@gmail.com. Like I said, today's topic is one that I'm sure all of us can relate to, one that we all deal with quite a bit, and that topic is dirt. Yes, dirt. And I'm not talking about the figurative sense of this word, just like straight up good old-fashioned soil, terra firma dirt. And it seems like an interesting topic to make an episode about, but when you think about it, dirt plays a huge role in all of our lives. So here goes. Dirt. It's such a short word, just 4 letters, yet so versatile. In one sense, it's like an unwashed dog. When it's inside the house, your mom yells at you to get it out and keep it off the furniture. But when it's outside, it takes on a whole new life. For Wyomingites, dirt is a constant part of life, and perhaps more so than for residents of any other state. This is in part because there are fewer people per square mile in Wyoming than in any other state in the Union, and also because we just have an awful lot of dirt. In contrast, when I went to South Carolina this past fall, there actually wasn't that much dirt to go around, at least not visible dirt. Trees grew absolutely everywhere like dandelions. The entire landscape was green, except where the occasional farmer had tilled the earth or where buildings and roads coated it. When I lived in Southern California for 2 years, I hardly encountered dirt there either. For a desert, there seemed to be very little sand to go around, since just about every available surface supported a building, street, or sidewalk. There were a few state parks and nature reserves where you could find dirt, But it wasn't like growing up in poverty flats at all. Where we grew up, long expanses of dirt separated nearly everything. Once you reached the end of the concrete pad in front of the house, you were on dirt from there. The land all around the house was mostly bare dirt, with the occasional sagebrush or cactus. A few brave trees followed ditch lines, and for a month or two some grass might fight its way up from the unyielding soil. To the north, though, the tract of BLM land was just one big dirt. The dirt flanked the dirt lane that led to a dirt road. Acres of dirt, miles of dirt, 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 dirt. I'm not saying that it was a bad thing. For a kid, dirt is one of God's greatest gifts. Growing up, we dug holes and made little underground huts with fireplaces carved out of the walls and little chimneys drilled through the top. These had to be excavated a safe distance from the house to ensure Mom and Dad didn't see the smoke curling up from our fireplace and start asking irrelevant questions like, "Who started a fire?" Or, "Where did you kids get those matches?" Dirt is also absolutely necessary for farming, I've discovered. Yes, I know. It surprised me too, but when you think about it, if we didn't have all this dirt, we wouldn't be growing hay or wheat, beets or corn. You can grow lettuce without dirt, though. There's this little hydroponics place over in Grable, Wyoming, where they grow lettuce without an inch of dirt. Just these little styrofoam boats floating in some nutrient-rich water. Those heads of lettuce are sailors, I guess. They never touch dry land, and then they get put in plastic containers and sold and eaten. Not that any sailor I've ever met has been put into a little plastic container, sold, and eaten, but it's possible it may have happened a time or two. Anyways, dirt is an essential part of life in Wyoming. And if you live in a big city or somewhere that gets any amount of rainfall, you probably don't spend nearly as much time walking in dirt, digging up dirt, or looking at dirt as the average Wyomingite. Here in the Cowboy State, we spend a lot of time looking at dirt. Anyone who has driven across the state can attest to that. But that's one of the great things about Wyoming. There is a lot of dirt. Nearly 50% of this state is public land, about 30 million acres of it. The other half is private or included in Native American reservations. There's plenty of dirt to go around, and a vast amount is publicly accessible. In Wyoming, we have access to 2 national parks, Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons. These 2 parks alone may be the greatest in the country. There is also 1 national recreation area, the Bighorn Canyon. We have national forests and wilderness areas, which are open to hiking, fishing, and hunting. A high percentage of the private land in Wyoming is dedicated to agriculture, and the largest private land holdings are used for growing crops and grazing livestock, which means more dirt. The bottom line is, for anyone who likes dirt and everything that comes with it, Wyoming is the place to be. There are some downsides to being surrounded by so much dirt. Keeping it out of the house is a never-ending battle. My 2-year-old can spend 15 minutes outside and return with enough dirt in his diaper, shoes, and hair to start an ant farm. When it rains, as it will once or twice a year, the dirt becomes mud, and the problem gets even worse. Sometimes I wonder if it wouldn't be better just to go with dirt floors rather than fight dirt all the time. My little boys definitely wouldn't complain. What amazes me is that in a place where dirt is so readily available, it can be so darn expensive. Back in the days when the U.S. government wanted people to settle the Rocky Mountain West, you could homestead 160 acres of dirt for $200. Nowadays, you're lucky if you can get completely unirrigated land in the middle of nowhere for $2,000 an acre. That same dirt, on which our society places so much value, wouldn't be welcome anywhere else, though. If someone gave you a jar of dirt as a gift, you probably wouldn't be too impressed. But if someone left you dirt in their will, you'd be leaving flowers on their grave every year. It's really quite interesting. Over the years, I must say I have spent some quality time with dirt. When I was a kid, our family of 9 moved into a trailer house in Poverty Flats, Wyoming, where we lived for 4 years while we, and when I say we, I mean my parents, built a new home. As you can imagine, with 9 people living in a trailer house, space was a bit limited. This meant us kids spent just about every waking hour outside, and one of our primary sources of entertainment was, you guessed it, dirt. The trailer house had a small addition on the south side that contained a bedroom, living area, and a small pantry, and this addition formed an L shape where it connected to the trailer. In the inside corner of this L, outside the house, sat a short ledge of sand rock and an impression in the ground where we kids spent hours playing in the dirt. This space was perhaps 25 by 25 feet, but it was just right for building the most incredible little town for our Hot Wheels cars. My eldest sister Candace dubbed the place Cacarden. I know, original, right? Interesting name. From the sandrock ledge, we carved roads that led down into a valley. Sticks and rocks formed buildings, and a chunk of angle iron we found in a nearby abandoned house worked wonderfully well as a grader for building roads. Before long, Cacarden had a multi-generational history, complete with businesses and schools, unrequited love, successful and failed careers, and an awful lot of dirt. It was marvelous. My older sisters, or the Trio of Trouble, as they are widely known, crafted most of the storyline, and my twin brother Fred and I mostly just drove our Hot Wheels cars all over the place. Later, when my Aunt Janet and Uncle Mark built an addition to their house next door, the construction required some excavation for the crawl space. I'll never forget the day a neighbor who did dirt work showed up to dig the foundation. "Whoa, look at that!" I hollered when I got home from school to discover the backhoe clawing away at the dirt next to my cousin's house. "What are they doing, Mom?" "They're adding on to Aunt Janet and Uncle Mark's house, so they have to dig the foundation," Mom replied, pulling my folder from my backpack. "Can we go watch?" Fred asked excitedly. "Do you have any homework?" Mom asked, glancing down at the folder. "Nope," I answered quickly. "All right, but don't get in the way," Mom warned. Fred and I flew out of the house and scampered through the dirt to Aunt Janet's house. Our cousins, Billy and Nick, were already present, watching with wide-eyed amazement as the backhoe lifted scoop after scoop of dirt from the growing hole and piled it in a mound to one side. "Hey, Nick!" "Hi, Billy!" Fred and I chorused as we approached. "Hi," Billy, Aunt Janet's oldest son, who was almost 12, said. "We're going to build an addition." "Yeah, we know," Fred said. "Mom said they're digging the foundation." "Yup," Billy said matter-of-factly. "Gotta have a big hole." Fred and I nodded, watching another scoop of dirt land on the growing pile. The backhoe must have been at it for quite a while, because the pile of dirt was taller than us kids and several feet in diameter. To add to the excitement, this wasn't even the only pile of dirt. In the process of the excavation, another pile rose some 15 yards past this new pile. It was even bigger than the pile the backhoe was currently working on. "That's a lot of dirt," Fred whistled. "Yeah, it is," Nick, Billy's younger brother, agreed. Do you think they'll let us try out the backhoe? I asked. Already asked, Billy sighed. Mom said no. Too bad, Fred said. It would be really fun to drive one of those. Finally, Mom called us in for dinner, and we had to leave the backhoe. But the best was yet to come. The next day after school, when we came out to play with Billy and Nick, we found them already hard at work on the new dirt mounds. Billy had a long-handled shovel, and Nick a short one, and both of them were digging in the mound. Look at this, Billy cheered, pausing in his digging. Mom said we can do whatever we want with this dirt. Really? Fred asked, wide-eyed. There must have been nearly 30 cubic yards of dirt in the pile where Billy and Nick were standing, and at least that much in the other pile of dirt. 4 little boys have never been richer. If Cacarden had been a source of endless hours of entertainment for us kids, then the dirt hills were going to provide decades of fun. From the get-go, we dug a hole for a fort, which Billy and Nick proudly claimed as their own. They didn't dare light a fire in it, given its close proximity to their house, and the increased possibility an adult would notice the smoke, but they did dig a pretty cool tunnel that ran from the center of the fort out one side of the hill. Have I mentioned dirt clods? If your childhood was a total loss, and you don't know what a dirt clod is, allow me to explain. A dirt clod is merely a solid mass of dirt that forms a solid chunk. Clay usually lends itself to really good dirt clods. Soil with a high sand content, while fun for a sandbox, sandcastles, and Tonka trucks, is completely useless for dirt clods. The dirt excavated for Aunt Janet and Uncle Mark's addition had enough clay in it to make the most fantastic dirt clods. When you sink a shovel in some dirt and you rock the shovel head back, it's always a good day when the result is a collection of large dirt clods. That's exactly what digging in the 2 dirt hills produced. The clods ranged in size from a clementine to a cantaloupe, and you better believe we put them to good use. A good dirt clod is a versatile plaything, and us kids spent hours, countless hours, playing with dirt clods. One of Billy's first experiments involved chucking a dirt clod at his little brother Nick. The results were satisfying. Ouch! Billy, that hurt! I'm gonna tell Mom! Okay, mostly satisfying. As projectiles, we quickly discovered that dirt clods were marvelous. Unlike a baseball, which you had to retrieve when you threw it, a dirt clod was highly expendable. We would set up army men and build little forts for them to hide in, then pelt them with dirt clods. Each time a dirt clod hit the ground, it would explode into a little shower of dirt pieces, and the effect was not unlike artillery in a Civil War movie. The plastic army men would go tumbling in all directions or get crushed under a dirt clod. Better yet, Fred and I would assemble one little army, and Billy and Nick would assemble another, and the 2 armies would duke it out, the firepower being provided by us kids hurling dirt clods. You had to make the sound effects too. Pow! Boom! Take cover! Billy yelled. We're taking heavy fire! Call in air support! Fred pelted the opposing army men with a fist-sized dirt clod, and though it came in a little short, it rolled on impact, scattering little green soldiers left and right. Nice shot, I cheered. Oh yeah? Watch this, Billy yelled, appearing from behind the dirt hill with a dirt clod the size of a watermelon. Atom bomb! No! Fred and I watched in horror as Billy heaved the massive clod with both hands. It sailed in a short arc toward our unfortunate rows of troops and landed with a terrific explosion of dirt and little green men. For a moment we stood in stunned silence, surveying the devastation. Billy and Nick cheered and high-fived. Finally, Fred spoke. "That was awesome!" "Yeah, it was. That wasn't an atom bomb, though," I said. "What do you mean it wasn't an atom bomb?" Billy asked defiantly. "You saw what it did to your army." "Yeah, I did," I sniffed. "But it wasn't an atom bomb. There wasn't a mushroom cloud." "Well, if it wasn't an atom bomb, then what was it?" Nick asked. I grinned. "It was an asteroid." Fred's eyes lit up. "An asteroid? Like the one that killed the dinosaurs?" "Uh-huh," I nodded. In minutes, we were assembling a reenactment of a mass extinction event with our plastic dinosaurs. Fred and I had tons of them, many of which were a gift from a relative whose boys were too old for them. I'm not sure what age that could be, but I hope I never reach it. Billy, Nick, Fred, and I positioned the dinosaurs on the dirt hill, and even set some of the herbivores down in the weeds where they could munch on the grass before the carnage began. The Brachiosaurus towered over the other dinosaurs, its head perched high atop its long neck. A Parasaurolophus, with its long horn sticking off the back of its head, stood next to one of my favorite dinosaur toys, an Ankylosaurus that was built like a tank. Raptors and at least one Allosaurus watched the plant eaters with hungry eyes. Little did he know he had already eaten his last meal. When all the dinosaurs least expected it, the first asteroid struck. Billy started us off, hurling a fist-sized dirt clod at the unsuspecting reptiles. "Whoosh! Boom!" Billy hollered, and the asteroid took its first victim. The poor Allosaurus didn't stand a chance. The clod slammed into him, rolling him sideways where he crashed through a raptor. Now all of us boys were launching asteroids. It was a meteor shower. Dinosaurs bellowed in terror. Predators forgot their hunger and tried to flee. Mothers scrambled to retrieve their young, but all to no avail. With 4 boys chucking dirt clods, you can obliterate a herd of dinosaurs in pretty short order. Within a couple minutes, all the dinosaurs lay scattered around the dirt hill, their bright colors contrasting with the dark brown of the earth. The green ankylosaur had flipped on his back, and his legs stuck up in the air. Even his armor couldn't save him. The Brachiosaurus lay stretched out next to the Parasaurolophus, and all their friends and associates were strewn around them. "That was awesome!" I cheered. "Let's set them up again." And so it was. The dirt hills provided countless hours of entertainment for us boys, and even for our sisters on occasion. I firmly believe every kid needs a pile of dirt. Let's unplug those Xboxes, turn off the PlayStations. Who needs TV? Texting and TikTok can take a hike. Let's go outside. Let's shove these kids out the door and tell them to go play, then go on a walk ourselves. We don't need more technology. We need more dirt. Maybe just not inside the house. Well, there you have it. Another untold tale from this side of nowhere, and it is all about the dirt. I tell you, those dirt hills near our house were the greatest toys we ever got. When I say every kid needs a pile of dirt, I mean it. It's awesome. You need to dig, you need to drive Tonka trucks, you need to get it in your hair and in your pants and your socks and fill your shoes with it. It's just, it's good. Dirt is good for kids. Dirt and dogs. So that's one of the things I love about growing up in Wyoming and living in the Cowboy State. Plenty of dirt to go around. I just want to give a shout out to my twin brother, Adam. If you're listening to this one, Adam, I bet you enjoyed it. Adam is a civil engineer, and he knows more about dirt and can talk about dirt longer than anyone else I know, and to greater extent than anyone else I know. So, yeah, shout out to Adam. Love you, man, and hope you enjoyed this story. If you enjoyed this story, then please go leave us a review and rate the podcast wherever you listen. If you're not going to give us 5 stars, don't bother. Just kidding. And if you have a story of your own about dirt, then let us know. You can send me an email at untoldtalesofpodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode when it drops on Facebook. As always, it's been great sharing this time with you, and this has been another untold tale from this side of nowhere, where we work twice as hard for half as much, and still find time for the important things, like fishing. See you next time, folks.